Hello, we are live, and so we're just going to go ahead and get started. Today is the first day of our composition month, and I'm really excited about it. So this month is all going to be about composition, and I'm going to be plugging shamelessly my composition course. I have an online course that teaches you all about floral compositions and color mixing and flower placement and how to pair flowers, which we're going to talk about a little bit today. And so I just wanted to mention that quickly and then we can dive in. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I use these two guides, which you can get separately or they are included as part of the course. And these aren't the full guides. My printer was being a little bit, I was struggling a little bit. So I only have a couple of pages from here, but this is the circle composition as part of the Fresh Flower Compositions. And I'll kind of explain more about that in a second. And I also included, let's see, an S-curve composition. So I'll kind of explain that in a minute. And then this is the flower pairing guide, which, again, I could not include everything in here. So I have the peony. These are the focal flowers, the filler flowers that could go with the peony, and the greenery. Now the fun thing about this is I created these fresh flower compositions so that you can paint them as is and use it as a reference. And then you're not looking at somebody else's artwork. So you can use your own style, you can have your own take on it, change up the colors, whatever you need to do. And I also included the same composition, but I've kind of explained what each thing is. So you can see this is a focal flower, this is a focal flower. And then I also talked about a secondary focal flower here, some filler over here, and then greenery. And the purpose of me telling you which is which is if you need the extra help, you can go ahead and plug in some of these different flowers that may not be on here, but they're up over here. So a focal flower, I have, let's see here, like for the roses, you can see it says focal flower. And so then I would just plug in a rose over here. And then here are my filler flowers. These could also be used as secondary focal flowers. And I talk a lot about this in the composition course, so I apologize if I'm kind of rushing through this. And then the greenery that would pair well with roses. So I have this for a bunch of different flowers. I've only included a handful here. So I've got the snapdragon and the greenery, and then what's the last one? I think it's the zinnia. Yep. And then the zinnia right here. So we're going to go ahead and dive in. I think I'm going to do the S curve just because it's a little bit less complicated than this circle composition. And spoiler alert, we're actually going to do this one next week. So we're going to paint this one as is using this as a reference in next week's Watercolor Wednesday. So I'm excited about that. So for today though, we're going to do this one. And we're going to change up the flowers. Here I've got a daisy, a carnation, some phlox, some veronica, and a spray rose here with some various greens. But we're going to switch them out. Let's see, where can I place this so you can easily see it? I'll put it over here. Okay. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll get to them at the end of the video. I wait until the end just so that the replay factor is a little bit better. Okay, so let's do a peony. So I can choose any of these. I have them included in a forward-facing peony, side-facing, and a three-quarter facing or side-facing. So we're going to do this. And I've got the pairing guide for this too. And you don't have to just stick with one flower, but just to make things simple, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to grab my size 12 brush. This is a size 12 round Princeton brush. I love, love, love Princeton Heritage brushes. They're my favorite. And then this is the cold press Arches paper on a block. So to start, I'm going to use this as a guide and this as a guide. So this is my composition. These are the flowers that I'm going to be plugging in instead. So actually I'm going to swap it to this one that kind of explains what is what. Just so you can kind of see what my thought process here. So this is our main focal flower. We just have one. And I'm going to go ahead and paint my peony. And I think what I'm going to do, because I always go for the same colors, is I'm going to pick out some random colors here. I think I'll choose 5 today. Ooh, I hope I get a pink. If not, that's okay. All right, that looks good. Quinacridone Rose is one of my go-tos. So I've got Quinacridone Rose, Yellow Ochre, Hooker's Green, Ultramarine Blue, and Raw Umber Violet. This is actually probably very similar to what I would have picked anyway. That's okay. I'll start here with Quinacridone Rose and mix that with a little bit of Yellow Ochre. Whoops. And we'll start with our peony here. Now I'm going to paint this peony a little bit different than what's shown over here. Just because I want it to be a little bit more side facing, but I'm going to kind of do an in-between these two. And I don't want it too big because I don't want it to overpower some of the other flowers I'm going to be adding. So I've got the start of my peony here, and then I need a secondary focal flower. So for that, I'm going to go to my filler flowers, and the anemone would be really good. A rose would be really good. I haven't painted an anemone in a while, so I think I'm going to use that. And I'm going to do more yellow one. This is Yellow Ochre. And that one is kind of going here. All right, and then we're going to move on to our filler flowers too. So we've got some filler flowers up here. We've got a few filler flowers here and filler flowers down here. So now I get to choose which filler flowers I want to do. And it's kind of fun because I've included Veronica here and there's some right here. So I might include that. And then wax flower is a really fun one as well. And I kind of like the idea of wax flower just because this shape kind of mimics the shape that's happening with my anemone. And so I think I'm going to do that. And blue wax flower is not really a thing, but we're going to make it a thing. I'm going to mix it with some raw umber violet over here, make it kind of a deep purple, purpley blue color. And I'm not being super careful with, getting every petal perfect. I'm just tapping my brush down, taking a look at my Fresh Flower Composition just so I can make sure I'm getting everything correct. And this is an S curve, so you can kind of see the shape here. It starts up here and it curves this way, and then it curves this way, and then it curves back this way, just like the letter S. So that's also what I'm trying to think about when I'm painting as well. And I'm not trying to have it be perfect and exact. Like when you look at it, I don't want you to say, oh, that looks like an S, but that's kind of the inspiration here. Especially when you're feeling like you're in a composition rut. I feel like a lot of times my compositions all kind of look similar. And so this is a good way to break it up and mix it up a little bit. I'm going to include just a couple little pink wax flower here too. Okay. Next, I think I'm going to move on to my greenery. And we've got Dusty Miller here. We've got some sprigs, fern, eucalyptus, just a basic leaf, some boxwood. You can't really see that. There we go. And I think just because of what colors I'm using, I'm going to include Hooker's green, but I'm going to mix it with my pink, so it's not quite. I'm sorry if you see my iodine arm when I'm rinsing here. I donated some blood this morning, so fun times. Let's see here. There's Hooker's green, a little bit of raw umber violet, and some quinacridone rose to kind of mute that down a little bit. And I'm really going to focus on this to know where I'm going to place my leaves. So I'm going to start here. I'm just going to do some basic leaves here. Got two different greens here just so we have a little bit of variety. It's not too different, but let's do a little more yellow. I apologize, the laundry is going in the background. We went out of town this weekend, and I feel like I am just playing catch up this week. It's been a little bit crazy. And then with Halloween, it's just been busy. I love adding the leaves. It just helps everything come to life, or start to anyway. All right, next I'm going to switch to my size 0. I always double check because I think I'm saying the right size and I could be telling you wrong, but this really is a size 0. Got my raw umber violet. And now I'm going to start adding some stems and finishing things off a little bit. Now the thought behind this, the whole fresh flower pairing guide and or the Fresh Flower Composition, and the pairing guide came from, I have a florist background, and it felt like an easy thing almost to decide what flowers to put with what, just because I had that florist background. And I had a lot of people asking me questions about how do you know what to pair together, and I would tell people, just look at bouquets and stuff, but they were feeling a little bit overwhelmed because they didn't know what flowers were what. And anyway, I decided to create these little guides to try and help with that. And I think they're just fun. They're like a little mix and match game almost, if you're feeling like you're stuck. And that one's still wet, so we'll wait just a minute. This one's still kind of wet too. So we'll move on. All right, I'm going to go back to my peony, my yellow ochre. Just kind of paint the center here. Man, I get all excited for fall, and then I start painting peonies, and I'm like, I really miss it already. I've got this gorgeous peony bush in our yard, and it's a Bartzella, I want to say Bartzella. It's bright yellow. Let's see, I think I have a picture of it. It's this guy. They're so pretty, and it's so big. It's like the size of my hand. They're just gorgeous. Okay, let's see here. Waiting for this to dry. Don't do what I did and just touch your painting and cause smudges everywhere. It's kind of like that do as I say, not as I do kind of thing. Waiting just a moment here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my dark center here, and then kind of take a step back and make sure I'm not missing any details that I want to include. So this is kind of what I'm going to be going for with my anemone here. But you can see that I use this as my inspiration, and it's turning out similar, but also very different. I've got leaves kind of in the same places, but not everything matches perfectly. And I think that's kind of the point too, is that you just have endless possibilities with these, which makes it really fun. This is still pretty wet, but that's okay. That is just fine. And I think this is dry enough. So I've mixed raw umber violet with that French ultramarine, or just ultramarine blue. It kind of creates this pretty deep brown color. I don't usually paint the stems first, but I just wanted to make sure this area was dry before I go in and add my little dots here. And it's a little bit wet there. You can start to see some bleeding, but that's okay. Now, because this is my focal flower, I need this to be brighter than this, because right now my eye is going straight to that anemone. And if I would have thought about that beforehand, I would have made the center a little bit softer just so my eye would automatically be drawn to this first. And so I'm just going to go back in and add another layer here. Make sure I rinsed out all the green here. And I just want to make sure that this stands out. Now, if you're interested in the composition guide, the online course, you can go to snowberrydesignco.com/yes, and there's a whole explanation there about it. I have one student, she just raves about it. She's so sweet. And she says that she uses it as a composition guide. Sometimes she goes back and uses it as a reference, and it's really helped her with her compositions, which always makes me feel good because that was the whole point. Okay, and I think that's that. I'm going to take these off so you can really see this. It's still drying, obviously, but really simple, but also really pretty. So created that using this S curve. This is the one with the explanations. This is the one without. And then the flower pairing guide is what we use to kind of pick and choose what would go with our peony. So after this video is done, I'll post some links down in the description box below. And you can check these out if you're interested. And I will see you next week for sure for our circle composition. We're going to paint this. I might change up the colors a little bit, but I wanted to do one that had sunflowers just because that's very fall feeling. And if there are any questions, I will hang out just for another minute before I end the video today. Inky Fairy Designs, she says, I love how you have swatches in a bag to randomly choose a color palette. Yes, I didn't always, but then I did that video a few weeks ago where I made, I painted some roses using black, yellow, and orange. So sometimes the colors I pick are not the ones I would pick, but I think that's kind of the point of it. It's pretty fun. I think I need to switch to a Ziploc bag though, because this one's kind of large and bulky, and anyway, doesn't matter, but I suggest doing that. It's fun to mix it up. Okay, there aren't any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and end this video. Thanks again for watching. Bye.